Today we're going to talk about how to prevent CTE and really minimize the injury risks. Prevention is a very tricky word because you can't really prevent injuries from happening. It's all about minimization, but in boxing, there's a lot of concerns now. I have young fighters asking me, oh, I've only been training for about like a year. I haven't sparred too much, but I'm worried I have CTE. So I'm here to dispel and really provide some information on how it really works and what I've experienced in my 30 fights and about more than a decade of fighting, right? But I've been training for longer than that as well. So what happens is there's two rules that you have to worry about in boxing. If you follow these two rules, then you're fine. The first rule of boxing is don't get hit, okay? Hit and don't get hit. That's the first rule of boxing. You do that. If you do not get hit in boxing, you will not get CTE. You will not get brain damage. You will not get concussions. So it sounds all good in theory, but how is it supposed to actually work out in reality? Okay, so in reality, what happens is the best do not get hit, and they make this a focus. So of course you don't want to be too defensive. You want to have enough offensive capability and make fights exciting, especially if you want to be a pro. But you can work on this as an amateur as well, and really hit and not get hit. That's one of the best foundations that you can go from. And sometimes, yes, you feel that, yeah, but my style is to get hit, or it's minimizing the damage of getting hit. So if you watch Golovkin, his head's always in a good position, so even if he gets hit flushed, he moves back like this. Whereas other boxers, they get hit, the head snaps back. And as soon as your head snaps back, that is a whiplash. That causes a lot of concussion injuries, okay? People who ride jet skis can get concussions as well. So this is something that you have to be aware of. Along the lines of not getting hit, of course, well, you will get hit in boxing. It's a reality. But it's all about having calculated decisions and risks that you make. So when you spar, you have to really try your best, all your effort, and you imagine it's like a real fight. But it is a spar. You can't really win in a spar. But your focus is not getting hit, okay? The first rule of boxing, do not get hit. Your focus is you're there, you're scoring points. If you're just focusing on that, you'll be good. And you're going to develop a lot of good repertoire, okay? So I'm talking about like different ways to move your head, different ways to use your hands to parry block, different ways to use your footwork, different ways to use your vision, different ways to use your mind, okay? So that's the first rule of boxing, and there will be other things that jog my memory, and then I'll come back to it. And then the second rule of boxing, and the most important rule of boxing, is listen to rule one of boxing, which is do not get hit, okay? Do not get hit. Many times in boxing, what happens is in my career when I first started, I was a natural. I never got hit. I was hurting other people. I didn't even try to hurt other people. It just happened very naturally, and I took it for granted. But what happened was along the lines, because boxing, it will always get hard, okay? There's always going to be rough patches. Every dog has its day. There was a period when I wasn't doing that great, all right? I tried to go for the 1%, right? The 1% increase to increase my style. The foundation was set. I was dedicated, disciplined. I would show up every single day. I would diet, eat right. I would make sacrifices. I would only think about boxing every single time. Had my career focused on boxing so I could work on how to minimize injuries. But one mistake I made was I let myself get hit, okay? Because you got to think about this. You do not get hit. You allow yourself to get hit, all right? And I thought some things was, okay, I'll be all right. I'm planning on fighting for a long time. I'm planning on being a professional. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm just fully focused on a clean lifestyle. So I can afford to take some punches to the head. I can afford to take some damage. I'm going to take some damage during my fights anyway, so why not just take it now while I try to figure it out? But that sent me down a pathway that it didn't help me improve at all, because I was trying my best. I was trying to push through, trying to be tough, warrior it out, really push through it. But, okay, that didn't develop my technique. I kept getting hit, because in boxing, this is what I wish I knew. If you get hit, you've made a technical mistake, right? That's what I call the switch science. If you get hit, you've done something wrong. And I keep studying this as well. I look at fights and I go, okay, he got hit, he got knocked out, he got knocked down. They scored a clean shot on this person. That boxer did something technically wrong. And that's what I've noticed all the way throughout. It's something technically wrong that they've done. That's the only reason why they've gotten hit, okay? It's not because our person was faster or slower. No, you can mitigate all these by being craftier, having better fight IQ, having better timing, better rhythm, even better physical attributes, okay? So I'm talking like your speed is just much better. You're stronger. You're much more muscle mass. You're heavier. You got more grit, determination. You got the intangibles. You got these things that just make you focus and dial it in. And sometimes that can win you the fight, but will it win you the marathon? All right, because boxing is a sprint with marathons. Yeah, you got to keep going. You always got to be able to stop, start, go slow, go fast. And that's why road work is so important, and that's covered in another video, okay? So road work is when you run and you're really balanced, okay? And that is another big one as well, because to not get hit, it's all about recovery. So going back to rule one, number one, there's a lot of things and you're just focused on how to not get hit. Okay, and some of the best spars you have, you're not getting hit at all, but you're hitting the other person. Doesn't feel like you've really done much, but hey, you won, you scored points. Scoring points is supposed to be boring. You're supposed to win in a boring fight. That means you've won in a safe fight, a technical fight. Very good foundations for later. But at the same time, you don't want to be too boring, yeah, because no one's going to buy your tickets, no one's going to want to see you fight unless you keep winning. But the pro game, especially, right, that becomes more of a business and is a lot more tricky and challenging to manage. Okay, another story for another time. So road work, fasted road work in particular, is one of the healthiest things to do to recover, because it releases brain-derived neurotropic factors along many other chemicals, neurochemicals, all that type of stuff. It helps you recover. Okay, so when you're running fasted, helps more blood flow to your brain and just washing out all the toxins. It helps you recover. It makes you feel a lot better. Many times, right? Low sleep, I had bad sparring, I'll go for a nice cruisy run, maybe with a sauna suit on, and I'll just feel a lot better, a lot sharper. And then some days I try to sleep and I try to rest, I don't feel as good, right? That's why the sauna, a lot of protocols that you can do, and that might be for another video. But this one is all about minimizing your damage, okay? So here's another example. What happens is if you're fighting is one of the best ways to develop your style and understand how you can improve. But sparring is more important, that under guidance you can see what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. But if you're not being successful in your fights, right? You keep losing, you keep getting punished, you're getting headaches after you're fighting. That's when you really got to pull back and focus on the development. You got to think, why am I getting hit? Okay, and again, you think you can sustain it for a couple of years, but in my career, I never got hurt that really bad. Okay, I might have had mild concussions, maybe even moderate concussions, but never nausea, never loss of consciousness. I remember going to supermarkets after the sparring and going, I just felt I couldn't like really understand what was happening. It sort of does feel like you're drunk, okay? But one of the best ways is, even if you go through boxing, you will get hit. It's a guarantee. It has to happen. You're going to test yourself. Some days you're not going to be good. Some days you're going to be great. So you will cop some brain trauma, but that's okay, because it's all about maintaining. Maintaining is one of the most important things that you can do. So if you're sharp, like, I'm sharp right now, it's all about trying to maintain it. So eating healthy, avoiding things that can make it worse, keeping it nice and balanced and stable. It's all about maintaining the momentum. So if you maintain the momentum, then it should be pretty smooth, okay? And you can tell when you're having an off day, you can't think as clearly, you're making wrong decisions, and that's bad, because that translates to how you box as well. Fight IQ is another story, and I've made a video on that as well. But maybe if I do this and I have a link for that video, it might appear, maybe. But what happens is, if you're working on maintaining your sharpness, having a good job is very good. A career and work, that is a whole nother story. I fully recommend it. I went to university. I stayed longer than I should have, but looking back, it was a good decision. I learned a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, made some good friends, and it helped me be where I am now. Okay, and this helps you put the pieces together a little bit better. So highly recommended. But also, when you're working a career as opposed to a job, there is progression, and you have to keep improving mentally. Boxing is a mental game. You've all heard this saying, at the highest level, it becomes less physical, more mental. Everyone's already fit, but mentally, what are the levels there, okay? In the career progression, what happens is, you might be just doing the initial work for everyone else, but then you might be a supervisor, a team leader, and this is when you have to think a little bit more critically, a little bit more strategically. Why wouldn't they transfer to boxing? Why can't you? So that's one thing that a lot of people miss. They want to train full time, which is fine, but you should be always improving yourself, all aspects, to be a complete person as well as a complete fighter. And I'll sum this up with Musashi saying, the way a fighter walks, their posture, their fighting posture is the everyday posture. So not only that, he also goes, learn the ways of all occupations. And that's what I did. My job for war cover in Australia, like my first job, well, second job, I was a forklift driver before that, yeah, that was fun. But I would study the occupations of everyone: truck drivers, carpenters, builders, tile makers, uh, everyone. Okay, so you can see I'm still figuring out why, but it will become apparent soon.